I woke early to the sounds of the valley awakening, the air fresh and filled with the hum of ether flowing freely again. Birds, real, actual birds, fluttered through the clear sky, their wings glimmering faintly in the soft morning light. The land, once suffocating under the shadow's corruption, was beginning to heal. The grass was vibrant now, the black veins gone, and the soft glow of the ether threads danced across the ground like rippling streams. For the first time in days, there was no chill in the air, no whispers lurking at the edge of my thoughts. It felt peaceful. Almost feels like we won, I said, stretching and letting the warmth of the sun touch my face. Lissara, already up and scanning the horizon, shot me a sharp look. The shadow retreats, but it never disappears, Nico. Do not let your guard down. I sighed, pulling on my pack and adjusting the shard against my chest. Its pulse was steady, stronger here now that the corruption root was destroyed. But Lissara was right. This wasn't the end. It never was. We broke camp and started moving again, heading deeper into the verdant expanse. The landscape grew more lush as we traveled. Rolling hills, scattered groves of tall silver-leaf trees, and rivers of pure ether glowing like veins of liquid light. It was beautiful, almost too perfect. This place feels alive, I said quietly, like it knows we're here. It does, Lissara replied, walking a step ahead. The verdant expanse is one of the few places where the ether flows unbound. The land here listens, Nico. It remembers. Remembers what? She glanced at me over her shoulder. What it was before the shadow came. The balance of light and dark. There were once people here who understood that balance and protected it, but they are long gone. Her words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. People who protected the balance. Something about that struck a chord deep within me, though I didn't fully understand why. By midday, we stumbled across something unexpected. Ruins. They weren't like the corrupted structures in the bleeding crags. These were ancient, untouched by the shadow. Tall stone pillars carved with intricate symbols, half buried in the overgrowth. The air here buzzed with energy, the ether vibrating faintly as though whispering secrets long forgotten. What is this place? I asked, stepping carefully among the fallen stones. Lissara knelt beside one of the pillars, running her fingers over the carvings. A remnant of the Keepers of the Balance, she said, an order that existed before even the Council of Eralis, tasked with maintaining harmony between the ether and the shadow. They were the first to realize that the two forces are not enemies, but parts of a whole. I frowned. Parts of a whole? How can light and shadow coexist? Lissara stood, her expression thoughtful. The shadow is not evil by nature. It is imbalance that breeds corruption, when darkness overwhelms the light, or when light burns too brightly and destroys all in its path. The shard pulsed faintly against my chest, as though responding to her words. I touched it absently, feeling its warmth. What happened to them? The Keepers? No one knows for certain, Lissara said, her voice quiet. Some believe they were wiped out when the shadow first rose. Others say they faded willingly, knowing their time had passed. I stared at the ruins, unease prickling at the back of my mind. The carvings on the pillars seemed to shift faintly when I looked too closely, as though the symbols were alive, waiting for someone to understand them. We explored the ruins for some time, searching for anything useful. At the center of the site, we found a small altar, its surface covered in dust and vines. Lissara brushed the debris away, revealing a deep groove in the stone where something had clearly rested. Something shaped like the shard I carried. This was once a sanctuary, she murmured, studying the altar. A place where the Keepers stored their greatest tools of balance, artifacts like your shard. Wait, you think my shard came from here? I asked, my heart skipping a beat. It is possible, she said, her gaze lingering on the groove. But if that is true, then its purpose may be greater than we realized. Before I could respond, the shard around my neck pulsed suddenly, flaring with light. The hum of the ether around us grew louder, sharper, until it became a ringing in my ears. Nico, Lissara shouted, grabbing my arm. Something is awakening. The ground beneath the altar began to tremble, cracks forming along its surface as the light from the shard seeped into the stone. The hum of the ether reached a fever pitch, and I staggered back as a blinding light erupted from the altar. For a brief moment I saw shapes in the light, figures cloaked in robes, standing in a circle, their hands raised as if in prayer. Their forms flickered, translucent and ancient, like echoes of a time long past. Then the light dimmed and the figures were gone. In their place, a small crystal orb hovered above the altar, its surface swirling with strands of both light and shadow. Lissara stepped forward cautiously, her expression unreadable. A keeper's artifact, she said softly. The orb of equilibrium. I stared at the orb, its surface reflecting faint pulses of light and darkness. What does it do? It is said to hold a piece of the balance itself, she explained. It can calm the ether, strengthen it, or even cleanse corruption if wielded correctly. The orb drifted toward me, as though drawn to the shard. I reached out instinctively, and the moment my fingers touched it, a surge of energy rushed through me. Warmth and cold, light and dark, two forces entwined but not fighting. For the first time I understood what Lysara had meant. Light and shadow were not enemies. They were two sides of the same coin. As we left the ruins, the orb nestled safely in my pack, the shard around my neck pulsed brighter, its rhythm more confident now. I felt different, stronger, more attuned to the ether around me. Lysara walked beside me, her expression thoughtful. The keepers believed that balance, not destruction, would save the world. The orb you carry now is proof of that truth. Then maybe we don't just have to fight the shadow, I said, glancing at her. Maybe we can stop it by restoring the balance. She studied me for a long moment before nodding. Perhaps, but the shadow will not let us achieve that balance without a fight. That night, as we made camp under a star-filled sky, I held the shard in one hand and the orb in the other. For the first time since coming to this world, I didn't feel like I was blindly fighting against the dark. I had a purpose now. A new path forward. Balance. It wasn't just about destroying the shadow, it was about restoring what had been lost. Tomorrow, we would begin that journey, and no matter what the shadow threw at us, I knew I wasn't alone. The shard, the orb, and the light within me burned brighter than ever.